Grace to you and peace from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Please be seated. Today we're going to be doing a little bit different. We have our AGM coming up, and so I thought I would share my report with you, a little fleshed out from the one you have in your hands, or you can pick up in the lobbies we'll hear from later. So it's going to be an overview of what we've done have done over the past year. It's going to be a little bit longer than usual, so settle in, fill up your coffee mugs. Yeah, you might need it. So St. Paul wrote to the church in Thessalonica. He said, "But we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about those who have died, so that you may not grieve as others who do not have hope." Informing the church has a long history, which is what I'm doing right now. Because this past year has been full and productive. Last year at this time, when I accepted the call to First Lutheran Church, I outlined 7 priorities that would form the basis of my ministry with and among you. These were ways that our church is making faith matter, which is our tagline. And these priorities were identified after 2 years of interim ministry here at First Lutheran, as needs and opportunities presented themselves, as well as areas that the council and our bishop noted as areas in need of attention. Each of these priorities focused on growth, and I'm happy to say that we have made progress in each one of these 7 areas. The first one, in growing relationships. We are making faith matter through this growing relationships. Relationship building at FLC has been happening primarily through our small group ministry, through Stephen ministry, through visitation, through fellowship opportunities such as Feast and Fellowship, Young at Heart's 55-plus lunch, and Ladies' Time Out, and pub night. I love that we have a pub night. And I love the fact we're partnering with Advent Lutheran to grow that this coming Wednesday. Also, the Not for Bread Alone that Jan has gotten started. These suppers designed to facilitate relationship building among our people. And each of these activities have been growing both in numbers and in quality of relationships being created and deepened. I'm delighted to see our members connect so well with each other. And this is another area of further growth we are looking into in the coming year. Number 2 was growing in Christian understanding. And we've seen a transition in this area as Jessica has moved out of her position as Director of Youth and Shania has moved in. And I've asked to form a parent council, so that's Wayne Hoff, Aaron Carrier, and Mila Osnes, who are forming this parent council to provide feedback and support for Shania as she grows into her new role. And I've also asked Shania to explore the possibility of our youth participating in the Canadian Lutheran Anglican Youth, or CLAY, gathering this coming August in Thunder Bay. I know, who wants to go to Thunder Bay in August? I don't choose these places. Well, this would be a tremendous growing opportunity for our young people. And I've also been in conversation with Pastor Phil Holk of Lutheran Church of the Cross about creating a citywide Lutheran youth group that will include a trip to the Canadian Lutheran Anglican Gathering in Thunder Bay. Because my experience with these national gatherings have been nothing but positive. I've been shocked by how well they're put on. But more so, I've seen the positive transformational impact on young people's faith lives through these events. And I would love our young people to have that experience. And for a full report on our education ministries, see Liz's report in your booklet. Third one is growing spiritually. I've been looking at devotional resources for you folks to use at home by yourselves or with your families. And this Advent will have more home or family-based items for you to use at home. And also our small groups have been looking at various ways to grow spiritually, as newer resources have come available that meet today's needs. And also youth group has been looking at ways to integrate service projects with fun activities. Also, conversations at youth group have involved real-world issues discussed from the lens of the Christian faith. Worship has evolved to include sermon series such as the Apostles' Creed and the Book of Genesis, Gospel According to Pixar Part 2, and Jesus Radio Superstar Volume 2. These were picked intentionally to help connect faith and life in ways that may have not been previously explored. Number 4 is a big one. Growing revenue. Yes, we're going to talk about money. Money's a challenge, an ongoing challenge here at First Lutheran. As you'll read in the Treasurer's report, our revenue is not meeting expenses. And this is why I'm exploring different models of revenue generation, and I'm making development of the land on the east side of the property here a priority. Further, I'm looking for ways to maximize the use of the building, and I'm looking for grants to update the gym and the kitchen so that they will be more attractive to potential renters, which we'll talk about later in this report. I'm also partnering more with Suzuki Music School in one side of the building and Charles Garden at the other side of the building to increase their lists of products and services so when they grow, our revenue grows with them. And many of you have been asking about the Tim Hortons supposed to go in there. Well, that's not going to happen. That fizzled out. And I've been in conversation with another developer who didn't go anywhere. So that's an ongoing challenge. But we're also still exploring the possibility of a farmer's market as an interim solution to generate revenue, as we'll only have 3 more years left on the cell tower lease, which raises a significant amount of money for our congregation. And as you'll note in the Treasurer's report, as I mentioned, we're not meeting our expenses, and we have a deficit that's been carried over from past years that needs to be dealt with. Our financial challenges are a direct result of the fallout from the congregation's decision to affirm the updated sexuality policies of our Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada when you voted to affirm LGBTQ people into the full expression of their baptism, specifically marriage and ordination, opportunities that were previously unavailable to them unless they denied who they were. This was an important step forward in the life of this congregation. And you took this step knowing it was controversial and would lead to a possible disruption within this community, which it had. The financial challenges come because as a significant people left this church to join one that matched their values more closely, the ministry model wasn't adjusted to meet the new organizational reality. So in other words, fewer people are contributing financially to a ministry model that was created when the church was almost twice this size. In church parlance, we went from being a program church, or church depending on programs to meet people's needs, to a family church, smaller but more intimate, yet still functioned as a program church. And we absorbed the costs with fewer giving units, which is the church term for the number of people contributing financially to the church, fewer giving units to meet expenses. Again, this was a bold decision. Some might say that we're living beyond our means and we need to cut back in order to grow. And yes, our finances do create a challenge for us and a potential crisis for us in the coming years if not addressed now. But within every challenge lies an opportunity. To meet our ongoing financial challenges and our future challenges, I've asked council if I could form a fundraising or a development committee to look for ways that aggressively raise funds so that we can not only have a more secure future, but so that we can be in a position to seize opportunities should they present themselves. And also we're exploring new revenue generation models. We also have the opportunity to reinvent the way we do church, because I don't think ministry and income are mutually exclusive. Because part of my doctoral research will be on how faith communities generate revenue in ways that enhance their mission, enhance their service to the community. And I'm exploring the theology and culture of money within churches specifically. This will be an opportunity for us to learn together how to create both a healthy faith, a healthy spirituality, and a healthy cash flow, so that we can lead with our strengths and continue to grow as a community of faith. I want to make sure that we're adequately resourced so that money will not be a hindrance in the growth of our mission as followers of Jesus. If you'd like to be part of this development committee, you know someone who would be awesome at it, just talk to me or just fire me an email. I'd like to get started on this in early 2018 and set some targets for the next 3 years. But one way you can get started on helping us meet our financial challenges is to sign up for pre-authorized remittance, or PAR. You have the sheets outside on the door. Many of you already have done so. PAR, pre-authorized remittance, is simply putting First Lutheran in your offering from your bank account or your credit card on the 18th of the month. You don't have to think about it. This helps you maintain your giving to the church through the year and gives us a sense of how much we will receive each month so we can more adequately plan to meet our expenses. Number 5 is growing attendance. Attendance has been on a slow, but it's been on an upward trajectory. As we receive new people, former members are gravitating back to the church. And while growth isn't happening as quickly as I would like, I'm glad we're headed in a positive direction. And this also will be a challenge for us. And it will continue to get harder as the years progress. Because the bottom line is that church isn't on people's radar screens anymore. Competing obligations on Sunday mornings make it harder for people to make it to church on a regular basis. And people don't default to going to church like they once did. And more than that, statistics show that fewer young people see church as a legitimate option for spiritual growth. Churches such as ours get lumped in together with the angry, vicious, high-profile preachers who seem to condemn everyone who breathes the wrong way. And so whatever good we do gets seen through that lens. But this also shows a tremendous lack of religious literacy in our society. It used to be that people would say that they didn't like churches, but they like Jesus. They don't say that anymore. It's that they don't know who Jesus is and don't know what a church is. Because I recently had someone ask me, what's the difference between a pastor and a rabbi? So where do we get started? We can complain about a changing world that appears to be leaving us behind, which of course does nothing to help except make Christians look like a bunch of grumps. Or we can see this as an opportunity again. This is an opportunity to tell our story our own way, instead of allowing society and culture to do our jobs for us. This is an opportunity to translate our faith into a language that people can understand, instead of leaning on a learned faith language that most of us don't even know. But the core of the faith never changes. Our faith is in Jesus, who died and rose again, that we might have life, and that we are called as followers of Jesus, as a forgiven and free people, to live that new abundant life together, so that God's kingdom of love and mercy, of justice, of kindness and forgiveness and peace may flourish in our lives and in our world. And when we have that message, we will have more of an impact in people's lives. Number 6 is growing the reach of our message. Our social media reach has grown since I added it to Pete's portfolio, now taken over by Jeremy. We're all growing in our platforms, and have expanded to include Instagram, and are looking to include others such as Snapchat. And now that Jeremy has taken over as our media and communications director, he and I are exploring ways to expand the reach and the content of our platforms. Last week's sermon rebuttal, yes, thanks Wayne, that's the start of our new video series called Faith at First, which I'm looking forward to seeing how that will unfold. And see Pete's report again for a fuller description of how our social media presence has grown over the past year. Number 7 is a big one. Growing our outreach and community partnerships. These have been amongst our strongest priority areas. First Lutheran has forged positive relationships with agencies across the city, and we are growing our reach of our influence. Chief among these partnerships has been our tax clinic program in our partnership with the Calgary Public Library and Calgary United Way. And the tax clinics, with the hard work of Nicole Nielsen and Wayne Kopcha helping organize and run the clinics, we grew our number of community volunteers from 43 to 105. And so far in 2017, both during the tax season and beyond, we provided 16 tax clinics in various locations around the city, and have 2 more planned for this month. And so far this year, our volunteers have filed 637 tax returns, gave 1,338 volunteer hours with an estimated $129,121.84, yes, an estimation, in refunds going back into the pockets of low-income people, which helps them and our local economy. In next year's tax clinics, we are looking for ways to include benefits navigation and financial literacy and coaching among our list of services. As we're partnering with Momentum, which is a community economic development organization, and Bow Valley College to provide training for tax clinic staff and volunteers for financial literacy and coaching for our low-income clients. And we are licensed to use the curriculum from both Momentum and Bow Valley for this work. And with Lisa Marie McDonald taking over as our tax clinic coordinator, we will see this ministry see even greater impact and expansion. And the Financial Empowerment Collaborative. As a result of our partnership with the United Way and Calgary Public Library, we participate in what is called the Taxation and Benefits Community of Practice as part of the Financial Empowerment Collaborative, which is part of the city's Enough for All poverty reduction strategy. I have the honor of co-chairing the Taxation and Benefits Community of Practice with Shauna Parks, the Executive Director of Sunrise Community Link Resource Center. Shauna and I help support 16 agencies and growing, including last week, a Chinese chess club is doing tax clinics this year. I think that's awesome. And they all get funding from the United Way. 15 of the 16 agencies, as of last week, provided 516 tax clinics, 8,023 tax returns filed, with 612 volunteers serving over 7,000 volunteer hours, with $531,405, with only 3 agencies reporting out of 15. So this number is probably closer to $2 million going back into people's pockets. Both our tax clinics and the financial empowerment work have taken on lives of their own. And this work is growing exponentially and is making a direct and meaningful impact in people's lives. I'm proud that First Lutheran has taken a leadership role in this program. Refugee sponsorship. Our church, First Lutheran, together with other churches of the Southwest area, meaning Calgary area, helped sponsor a refugee family who arrived over a year ago. We contributed financially, as well as with material items, and some drove to doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and that sort of stuff. So thank you everyone who helped with our first sponsorship family. It was a real success and has been held up as a model for other areas in the Alberta Synod to follow. And just like the tax clinic work, this ministry has taken on a life of its own. And the group is looking at becoming its own legal entity, as right now Lutheran Church of Our Savior has taken on the role of the fiscal agent and the signing authority, and therefore has taken on all the liability. Creating a new organization will distribute the liability among the churches of the Southwest area and give the group greater flexibility as this ministry continues to grow. Next one is the Brenda Strafford Foundation and Dementia Friendly Communities. This is a recent partnership to work with people living with dementia and with their caregivers and their families. We'll be hosting our first Memory Cafe this coming Wednesday afternoon. It's an opportunity for those living with dementia and their caregivers to gather for support and for socializing. I'm delighted that we have been asked to participate in this important program. And see Liz's report for a fuller description, as I have asked Liz to take the lead on this effort. Now we get to the council priorities. This past year I worked with church council and staff to define our strategic direction. For a preferred future outcome, council and staff identified these objectives in the coming year. A more active and participatory congregation engaged in missional activities. A more active participation, larger volunteer base, more newer people, packed parking lot, lots of kids, strong internal community, better communication and branding, embedded in the community, willing to be open to continually change, identifying the needs of the wider community and meet them, growth in small groups, continued growth of music ministry, keep up the building maintenance because this place isn't getting any younger, and stronger, more reliable revenue model. As the new council comes in, these objectives will be refined, prioritized, and executed upon. I've been glad to work with this council over the past year. They've been supportive and helpful in navigating my new permanent role here at First Lutheran. I'd like to thank outgoing Council President Rick Petrovich and Council Secretary Betty Sanford for your hard work and faithfulness over the past year. I enjoyed working with you and hope you enjoy having your third Tuesday of the month off. Also, I got to give a special shout out to Stan. He types out the minutes, so he knows exactly what's going on in the church. Betty writes them out, Stan types them up. So thank you, Stan. Extra congregational ministries. This is stuff I'm doing that's kind of, it's not arm's length, it is, but it's also kind of connected to what we do here at First Lutheran. The Alberta Pastoral Care Association. I served on the APCA board for 3 years and was elected president at our AGM in April. I knew this was coming, but I thought it was going to be next year. But the outgoing president asked me to step up. Alberta Pastoral Care Association provides training, support, and advocacy for lay pastoral care providers in healthcare and other institutional settings. This role has given me an opportunity to work with Alberta Health Services and other community partners in helping define a new path for spiritual and pastoral care in an age of dwindling resources yet increasing demand. And we're focusing on underserviced areas, mainly the rural areas, who tend to not have spiritual care departments. Lutheran Campus Ministry. I was board secretary for this ministry since I arrived in 2014 and really enjoyed working with Pastor Margaret Propp, who is well known to our church in this vital ministry. Lutheran Campus Ministry has expanded from U of C and now has a presence at Mount Royal. Our very own Jeremy Broadfield has been elected president of Lutheran Campus Ministry Board. Kevin Nielsen serves as treasurer. So we have a strong First Lutheran presence in this ministry. Unfortunately, I've had to step away from this board due to my new synod responsibilities, which I'll get to in a minute. I'm also part of the Alberta Synod Study Conference Planning Committee. Bishop Larry asked me to take over as chair of this committee, which oversees the annual Synod Study Conference, where in February, I got to go to Canmore for 4 days. Oh, I know, hey? And listening to world-class speakers and such. Well, I get to plan it, so I get to choose the speakers, which I like. This is both continuing education and worship within a retreat setting. Actually, it's in a hotel. Area Dean for Southwest. Bishop Larry, in September, had appointed me Dean of the Southwest area, which is the churches of Calgary, Airdrie, High River, and Okotoks, which means that I convene meetings of the clergy and other rostered leaders, preside over pastoral installations, and fill in for the bishop at meetings and events when he is unavailable. And furthermore, I'll be working with an area leadership team, of which our very own Wayne Hoff is a member. They had to break the rules to have 2 members of the same church in this team. That's how much they wanted Wayne. And it's also to help implement the new structure that the Synod has created and look for new ministry opportunities for the churches of the Southwest area to collaborate on, such as the refugee work. And Greg Lingelbach has served as treasurer on the former conference structure and has helped, along with Pastor Julianne, in helping train the new leadership teams. Another area we're looking at is incorporation. As many of you know, our funding for the Tax Clinic program comes from the United Way, as we took over this program 2 years ago from the Calgary Public Library, who got out of the program business and into the community space business. And the United Way funded Calgary Library's Tax Clinic program, and we inherited that funding, well, most of that funding. However, the United Way can't give us the money directly because we're a church incorporated under the wrong category. So Sunrise Community Link and Resource Center is acting as our fiscal agent who receives the funds, then gives them to us. But the kicker is they hold back 15%, and I really hate that. Which I was able to secure a grant from the Alberta Synod to make up for this difference, but I can't go doing that every year. So once you pass the budget next week, I'm going to be talking to a lawyer about incorporating our tax clinics separately. And with the tax clinics, I'd like to move some of our other ministries into a new corporation and look at transferring ownership of the building to the new organization. Doesn't mean we're going to lose ownership or control of the building. Just it'll be filed under a different corporation so that we will be eligible for broader funding options that are unavailable to us right now since we are incorporated under the Religious Societies Lands Act. Specifically, I'll be exploring funding to upgrade the gym because the floor needs a lot of work, and the kitchen to make it like industrial. This will increase the rental value of our space and help provide both revenue and service to our broader community. So moving forward, First Lutheran has had many successes over the past year, and we have much to celebrate, a lot to be thankful for. I'd like to thank the staff, Liz, Kelly, Pete, Jessica, Shania, and Nicole, and now Yvonne, Jeremy, and Lisa Marie for being so thoroughly engaged in the ongoing ministry of this congregation. I'm glad that we have such a dedicated staff to ensure that the work done here in Jesus' name is done with excellence, with faithfulness, and with joy. And I'd like to thank you, the faithful of First Lutheran Church, for your partnership, your support, your generosity, both with your time and your treasure, and for your willingness to take risks, knowing that as the world changes, we are called to adjust what we do as church and how we do it. That's why I'm confident in First Lutheran Church's future. We have a creative, dynamic, faithful staff working hard to ensure that the work done here meets the needs of a congregation and the community. We have a visionary church council that's not afraid to take risks. We have a congregation of hope-filled, faithful disciples of Jesus who support and participate in this growing work. And we have a God who calls us to new and exciting territory on a path whose direction is not entirely known, but whose destination is clear. So I'm looking forward to what this next year will bring as we continue in our mission of making faith matter. And may this be so among us.